Hi, my friend. Welcome to Inspire to Run podcast. I'm here today with Mario Valentin, who is an Army National Guard veteran, father of four, captain of Super Smash Bros. OCR team, and he started racing in 2014, mainly OCR races, which includes 61 Spartan races, which is comprised of 3 ultras and 17 trifectas. Mario is using fitness to keep him ready for life and wants to inspire others to be their best self through fitness. Welcome to the show, Mario.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is exciting to have you here and talk about your journey. As I understand it, you didn't really grow up with fitness and sports when you were younger. It's something you got into a little bit later on in life. So love to hear about that. Love to hear about some of life's obstacles, which is also in your bio, and, just learn a little bit about you and your journey.
Sounds good. Yeah. Again, I didn't have any traditional sports growing up, so there was no school football, basketball, or anything like that. Now, I will say, growing up, I did think that I was a good basketball player. I mean, that's one of the things that I would say. My friends and I would get together and we would go out, play at the park. And so I would say, while I wasn't in any kind of organized sports, basketball was my thing. So there was never any running or no track or anything like that. But so I was semi-active, we'll say, early on, in early teens. And then as you got older through high school, there were other things that occupied my time during that time of my life, per se.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm definitely envious because basketball, baseball, all those sports was not on the list for me. So I joined cross country and I did a little bit of track, and those are kind of my sports in high school. And the same kind of thing, like after high school, into college, working part-time, going to school, working full-time, going to school part-time, starting a family early, like just sports took a back seat.
Yeah.
And then I personally got back into it, just about 8-10 years ago. So, love to hear from you, like, what was that driver to kind of get you back into fitness and sports, and where did that take you?
Well, I would say, going back to the high school days, and you talk about starting a family early, I started very early. So that, starting very early and then entering into the National Guard to try to, have a way forward for the family. That's kind of what occupied my earlier years. And then also had aspirations for other things non-related to fitness that we can delve into. I haven't talked about it in a long time, but back then I was a very different person than I am now. Probably around, I'd say 35 years old or so is when I just had this itch to like the Army National Guard when I was a soldier, doing those obstacle courses that we did in training, and being a soldier was just something that I had fond memories of, and the discipline that it instilled in me. I just wanted a piece of that again in my older years, and I was just looking for a way to achieve that. And then there was a race held in Hartford, Connecticut. It was the Down and Dirty Mud Run, and it was put together by I think it was the Army that was running that. So I said to myself, this looks like something perfect that would get me back into, the things that I missed, the things that I enjoyed. And I talked to a coworker of mine. I said, "You want to try sign up for this thing?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure. Let's sign up for it." I had no idea what obstacle course racing was at the time. I think that, so it was 2014. Spartan was already a thing, but I had no idea about it. There was I had no information on it. So this was my first introduction to it. So that prompted me to start, preparing for that, which I had an understanding was like a 3-mile race, some obstacles. So that's what got me, like, during lunch break, I would do like a walk around the block, then it escalated to like a run around the block. So that's what started training. And then maybe tracking my fitness a little bit by progressing and saying, hey, I was able to run a mile, because prior to then, aside from the Army training, I never myself was motivated to just go out and run for I used to think that was like silly. Who goes out to just run? So it's never something that I did, but preparing for this race is what got me to start wanting to say, okay, how fast can I run this mile? And so that's how it initially progressed. And then doing the race, I enjoyed it. I was like, you know what, this is something I'm going to do every single year. So that was in 2014. And then sure enough, in 2015, there was an excitement that was built up. And we're going to do this Down and Dirty Mud Run again. It was my friend John and I, as a coworker. He was, I would say, the original Super Smash Bro. We can talk more about the team. But we were all excited about doing the 2015 Down and Dirty Mud Run, once again in Hartford. And I was saying to myself, you know what, the first time I did it, I think I placed pretty well in my age group. I think I was like 7th or something in my age group for the first time. So I had an itch of I can be good at this. And I trained for the next year. Did a lot more running during lunch breaks, and then after work, I would get into running. We did the 2015 Down and Dirty Mud Run, had a blast. So certainly 2016, we were going to do it again, but that company, I don't know if they went out of business or what happened, but that event was no longer in Hartford. So we had to find something to fulfill that itch. Now, we've been doing this for 2 years. It's been a yearly tradition. So what do we do? And then Spartan kind of came into the picture. I think my friend John might have introduced me to Spartan, and we signed up for a Beast in New Jersey, which at that time I had no idea what this was. I just know it's like, hey, we're going to try this Spartan thing. And that's where the journey began in 2016.
Okay. That's awesome. And when you're talking about the Beast in New Jersey, you just brought back fond memories of when I did my first trifecta, probably first and only at this point. But yeah, I did the Beast, which culminated my season there in Mountain Creek. I think it was kind of the same. And I think I left part of my soul on that mountain. Well, but happy to be done with that.
Yeah. So again, I mean, if the listeners are familiar, I know this is Inspired to Run, but I think that you reach a diverse group of athletes or people that strive for fitness. So I'm sure that some of the listeners out there are familiar. So when I say the first thing I chose was the Spartan Beast, people are like, why would you choose that? But we really didn't know. But when you talk about leaving your soul there, that's exactly what happened. So leading up to that race in New Jersey, there was a lot of, I was like, okay, this is a Spartan, and they do a really good job of marketing. So I was saying to myself, well, I'm gonna prepare for this. So I was doing, I'd go to local playgrounds and get on the monkey bars, or I try to practice, whatever strength training I can. I wasn't in the gym at the time. I think I ended up signing up for a gym, Planet Fitness, which is, it was economical. It was, there was flexibility because I can go to a local Planet Fitness, or I was traveling back and forth for work. Mm-hmm. So I can go, when I was traveling to New Jersey for work, I can go to the Planet Fitness there. But either way, I was increasing my runs. So I would do 5K, and then I got to a point where I was even running like 6 miles, or seeing how far I could go, knowing the distance was going to be 13 miles. My proud moment at the time was being able to do like a 10-mile run it was a place called Weequahic Park in Newark, New Jersey. It's a beautiful park out there, and just being able to get to a 10-mile run was a huge achievement for me at the time. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for this Spartan race. I can't wait. And then I learned quickly that, road running or running on flat ground is absolutely nothing like, running on, mountainous terrains. And that mountain humbled me. My first Spartan was it was a learning experience. I'm not going to call it a failure. It was a learning experience. It took me 9 hours on my first Beast. So, like looking back on it now, I've improved a lot, but that's what it's all about. It's about trying something for the first time and then seeing how you can improve over time. But I mean, I set the bar so low on that first run, but I had I had a knee injury to deal with probably around mile 9. Mm-hmm. And then just after that, I was hobbling to the finish line. And, that first finish line, my first finish line experience on a Spartan race was crossing it and like almost being in tears with my buddy kind of carrying me over the finish line. But it was a tremendous achievement, and it was very rewarding. So in the moment was miserable, but then when you look back on it, like I was on a high for just saying I completed that. So that's what some of these events offer to me, and for a lot of people, is that sense of achievement, and it's attainable. It's if you think about somebody who starts their journey or whatever it is. They a lot of times they say, well, I can't do that. That's 13 miles. And when I look at the person I was when I did that first Down and Dirty, that person would not think that they can achieve that 13 mile or probably 15 or 16 mile Beast, because Spartan miles were different earlier. When I first started, 2016,
That's right.
They were a little bit different. But I just mean, like, even when I did that Down and Dirty, there was another option. I think it was a 6 mile option. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I just did this 3 mile race. Look at those guys doing the 6 mile race. That's incredible. So even then, that was a tremendous thing, to where now, I'm in a position where, 6 miles is a regular occurrence. It's part of training now. But it just goes to show that, if there's something that you got your eye on and you want to try it, it may seem big, but if you take one step forward, anything that's big, if you break it down into small steps, you can eventually achieve those goals, So that's probably what I would say to people who are looking at, trying to sign up for their first big thing. Either it's a OCR race or a road race or a marathon.
Yeah, 100%. Because like you said, if someone hasn't run a 5K before or a half marathon or a beast, it does seem daunting. And I could tell you from my own experience, like I didn't start running really long distances up until about 4 years ago, right? When
Yeah.
I started to do these longer Spartan races. And then just the other day, I was talking to somebody, I was like, yeah, I have to go run 15 miles this Sunday for my long run. And they're looking at me like, only 15 miles. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's no big deal. Because in my mind, I just did 18 miles the week before.
Yes.
So I'm like, yeah, 15 miles. This is going to be a walk in the park.
Right.
What I'm really worried about is 21 miles a
Yeah.
week after, because I haven't done that yet. So for me, like that's the next step. So like you said, it's really just taking it step by step
Absolutely.
until you can get to, your goal.
But I think another thing that's important for us who are moving forward and we're looking to get better is always having an understanding of where other people are. And so I'll take an ultra, for example. So I don't like to do the Spartan Ultra, and I have reasons for doing it. I don't necessarily like that long distance, but I do it for other things. So I had, I know I talked with you a little bit earlier about my Achilles injury. I had that Achilles injury. Prior to that injury, I did the Spartan Ultra, and it was just because it was a bucket list thing. I wanted to try it, and it was a one and done thing. I was certain. I was like, I'm never going to do that again. But then after the injury in 2018, I at some point wanted to work back to it. So it took several years, but doing the Ultra again was more of a redemption for, recovering from the Achilles, going through all that work. And then I was like, you know what? Can I do an Ultra? And so I did it for that reason. But there are people that are, for them, a 5K is their Ultra. And I respect that. I respect anyone who's like, they're not active, but they're saying to themselves, you know what, I want to get myself to a 5K. And, they are taking that same leap of faith that I'm taking when I join an Ultra, or that, person doing a 100-mile race is taking. They're at a certain fitness level and they want to take on something bigger. So my bigger is different than your bigger. And so that's, we have to respect everybody's, commitment and appreciate that they're having a willingness to leap forward and try something new.
100%, 100%. So let's talk about, other parts of your journey. So we talked a little bit about your injury, so we can, talk more about that, and also love to hear about your team, the Super Smash Bros. Team.
Okay. So the injury first?
Yeah, let's talk about the injury. Yeah.
All right. So I think 2018 was a year where I was, 2017, I had done a whole bunch of races. I tried, I tried Savage Race, City Challenge. I tried Rugged Maniac, Bone Frog. I was branching out. So it wasn't just Spartan races. We were just trying different venues. Really enjoyed the vibes that you get at the different start lines. And I think that might have been the year where I started doing competitive. So initially we started out in the open, and then I jumped into the competitive waves just because I wasn't necessarily competing against, fellow racers. I was competing against my prior self, but that atmosphere was, it suited me to be kind of at the start line with people. As I'm running, everybody beside you whether they're chasing a podium or they're chasing their own PRs. It just has a different feel when you're in the competitive wave. So 2018, I did, several races, and I was feeling good. I think I was at the height of, what I thought was the height of my fitness. And it was a year where I was also looking to do endurance. So I think I did I did the Spartan Ultra, and then I did some Hurricane Heats, which are a different type of event. But my goal was doing an endurance trifecta, meaning I would do an Ultra, a 4-hour Hurricane Heat, and a 12-hour Hurricane Heat. That's what it was at the time. Now there's all kinds of different levels, 24-hour. I'm not interested in that. But so I was feeling strong, and then I also started doing some ninja courses out in, I think it's in Windsor and Windsor Locks. There's a ninja gym out there, which is still running today. But they had all these obstacles, and I was like, let me try ninja, So I went out, signed up for some classes, and it was fun. It was a fun thing to do, branching out. And the warped wall that they have there, I remember tackling the smaller wall and then progressing to the bigger wall. And then they had like a 15-foot, warped wall that I was like, all right, I'm going to get that. And there was one day when I was there training, and I think we focused primarily, like we did our warm up, then we focused primarily on upper body stuff. And then like before I left, it was like 10 minutes left. And I was like, all right, you know what? I haven't tried that 15-foot wall today. Let me give it a shot. And that's where it happened. I was running towards the warp wall, and as I was running, I just heard this loud sound pop. It sounded like a 2x4. Somebody just dropped it on the ground. That's what it sounded like. And I remember running towards the wall, falling on my face. I looked back because there was a coach that was going to spot me. Like as I run, he would, whatever, he'd spot me. And I looked back like, what you hit me for? Because I thought somebody hit me. And I think when you talk to people who have an Achilles injury, they have similar stories of feeling like they were just hit with something. But anyway, that's when it happened. And in that moment, I remember it was sharp pain at first, but then there wasn't really a tremendous amount of pain. I just couldn't stand up. Went to the doctor. They confirmed what happened. And I remember sitting there in the hospital when one of the doctors was kind of giving me the news, and he was like, yeah, it's an Achilles rupture. And he was just feeding me like a lot of bad news. And I think that they have to be very careful when they have someone in the room there and they're evaluating it. They don't crush their hopes and dreams, because it was sounding like, yeah, you're not likely going to get back to running the way you were. And I wouldn't expect to rebound. And it was just things that I didn't need to hear at that time that really kind of was like, all right, well, Spartans are probably over and running is probably over based on what he's telling me. But then it just was a point in my life where I said, you know what, this is one of life's obstacles that we talked about. And a lot of people, I think, would find themselves in a point where they would give up completely. But I was like, no, I think that while I'm limited here with my injury to my leg, I'll just start focusing on upper body work, and I'll start focusing on things that I can do. And one of the things that also is, I would say, good advice for anyone out there is always focus on the things that you can do when life gives you challenges. So if you have a lower body injury, you can always work on the upper body. It's good for you. You can't allow yourself to be sedentary, and you can't let a certain moment in your life define you either. So I learned that through that experience, and I'm better for it. It was a long recovery process. I remember being worried that will I be able to get back to this where I was. And I would say that after, some good recovery time, I think it was about 6 months, I was already back to, doing some running, getting back involved in some races and tackling obstacles again. So it was a setback, but again, I think that it was just a testament to being able to overcome challenges. So life's challenges. So anybody out there who's suffering a similar injury, it does get better, and but I think the only way it gets better is by, taking control and not letting it, sideline you completely. Because I don't think it does us any good to, have something happen and then we just sit back and, let the couch take over.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that story. And, I love what you said about like, don't let those specific moments kind of define you.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful to kind of think about, what else can I do even though I'm limited in one particular area? What are the other things I can do to kind of keep moving forward? So I appreciate that. And kind of as we were talking before, I personally didn't realize this. Like, I know injuries are quite common, like whether you're doing fitness or not, injuries happen and you have to kind of work through them. But Achilles injuries is actually a little bit more common than I thought. And, I know folks that are listening have either gone through it or maybe going through it now. So this is really helpful, to hear your story and kind of how you work through that.
Yeah. And just real quick on the Achilles injury, it's when I talk to doctors afterwards, it's, you ask a lot of questions, especially me as an engineer. I have a lot of questions that I have for everything in life. So I'm asking the doctor, how can I have prevented this? What can I have done? And when something like this happens to us, we often beat ourselves up thinking to ourselves, what could I have done better? Like, I always think back to the day it happened, and I say to myself, well, I remember working on upper body and maybe my lower body cooled down and I decided to just go, full on with the run. And that's when it popped. But ultimately it's one of those injuries that you can't necessarily, it's one of those things that happen. There's not really something that you can do to prevent. So certainly stretching and making sure you have your mobility, that's always key to prevent any injuries. But, this has happened to some of the top elite level athletes. Like if you're looking at the NFL or NBA or even baseball, you'll see Kobe Bryant is a prime example of someone who the Achilles happened to him. And, Kobe Bryant's on top of his training, right? So if it can happen to the elite level athlete, it's something that likely it's not something I did wrong. It's just something that happens, and you just gotta move forward. Now, that's not to say that things aren't preventable. So by all means, in my older years, I know that I need to stretch before I do any kind of workout. I think stretching post-workout is also beneficial, and these things do help. Recovery, I know that you got Coach Kevin probably telling you that recovery is key, and I know I've listened to, as a matter of fact, on your podcast recently, he talked about the benefits of recovery and prioritizing. So, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm not I'm not a trainer or anything. So, my thoughts on injuries are, that you can prevent injuries, but this one in particular, don't beat yourself up if it's something that happened to you.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, Coach Kevin does emphasize, recovery, and he has a lot here. So today we're actually recording in Kevin's gym, in the Underdog gym.
We're in Underdog Fitness, and we have some of the top level athletes here today actually training. So it's pretty inspiring. So we talk about inspired to run. Right. I'm inspired to go out and run too, or maybe even do some wall balls like Alex is doing over there.
Absolutely. So, so he does have a lot of equipment here for recovery, and he does promote that. So I know for me personally, I have massage boots, and I've done, some other things for recovery. And I also try to do a lot with warm-ups and, a little bit of stretching. And one of the things I need to get better at is mobility. So I know that's an area that I need to get better at. Same. So I appreciate you sharing that. So, kind of on the same theme of life's obstacles, let's talk about some other obstacles that you kind of encountered, and how'd you work through those?
Well, I don't know. There's lots of challenges that we have in our life. I mean, for example, we might, losing somebody close to us is always one of life's obstacles, and throughout my life, especially later on, there's many people that I've lost, and, having to deal with that is obviously something that's challenging for a lot of people. Not to bring the show down or anything, but that's the reality. Those are some of life's challenges. Losing your job can be, life's obstacles. So I haven't ever lost my job. I think I was laid off at one point. So it's just something that happens. Earlier on, you're trying to navigate through life, pay bills. I've got kids to take care of, and then you get laid off. It's like, but I would say that taking on these things for ourselves, like I do obstacle course racing. For those that are trying to tackle a marathon, having a goal, something that you chase, it puts you in position for the thing you're chasing, but then it also gives you a certain mindset for other things in life. So, you talk about those instances that I mentioned, you learn to deal with things, and you learn that things can ultimately get better. You learn to progress, and you learn to stay strong through adversity. So that's probably one of the biggest benefits that I get from, doing races, training, and staying prepared and ready for these activities. I would say that and it's not just obstacle course racing, it's whatever you decide to do, whatever challenge you take on that you say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to work towards this. It just builds that mindset, and it opens doors. So I would say that this fitness journey has opened the doors to some of the most beautiful places in the world for me personally, because while I'm getting ready and training for this, let's just say there's an opportunity that presents itself where it's like, climb this beautiful mountain that only your legs can take you to. You can't drive up there. If you want to see this, spectacular view, you've got to get up there. And, being able to say yes to so many things that I'm grateful for, being able to do that. If I'm out, like I travel for work a lot. So let's just say if I'm out west in Vegas is one of the things I plan on tackling when I go for a conference in Las Vegas. I've been there a few times already, and I've looked at the mountains surrounding the city, and I've said to myself, you know what, I need to hit those mountains, and just I know that when the time comes, I'll be ready to do that. And so I think that there's something to be said about always being ready to take on whatever life presents itself. Whether it be a challenge, but then also when it's ready to reward you with beautiful views, times with, good times with good people. So, that's just, I'm not sure how I got into that direction, but it's just kind of talking about how, this fitness journey prepares you for, dealing with challenges, but then also accepting new challenges.
Yeah.
And new opportunities.
And the benefits that come along with it. And I love that you said that, because, I'm thinking about my first marathon that's coming up. And it's in France.
Yes.
And I may have talked about this on the show. I may not. I'm not sure. So I'll just tell a little bit of the story. My goal this year was to run my first marathon. And the marathon that I picked is happening tomorrow.
Right.
It's a New York City
Marathon.
New York
Yeah,
City Marathon,
yeah.
right? So I didn't get in. I tried a whole bunch of ways. I didn't get in. So I was like, I wanted my first one to be memorable. So I decided to run a race in France that I'm familiar with because I traveled there a lot in my past life. So it's called the Beaujolais International Marathon. It's in a beautiful region of the country. And just like you said, I'm going to be able to run in a beautiful area. I'm going to see friends I haven't seen in a long time. I'm going to, at some point enjoy wine while I'm there. And I'm just like really excited just to experience all that. Like I'm not running for time. I'm not running for medals. Like I'm really just running my first marathon with good friends and just a beautiful place. So
yeah, absolutely. And
reward.
when I look at people on social media, you kind of see that they take these, when they travel to a race, they turn those into opportunities to explore. And they turn into little mini vacations. So you kind of tackle two birds with one stone, where you're doing something for yourself, something that fulfills you. But then while you're there, you're also seeing, the beautiful views that that location might have to offer. So, and you want to be able to take advantage of those things. The last thing I want to do is be stuck in Waterbury, Connecticut for my entire life. And, we laugh, but, I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends that are my age that have yet to really venture out and see different areas. And, I got to say that, fortunately for work, I'm able to do that. But also, fitness has taken me to a lot of different places. So that's why it's just something that's been beneficial for me. And then also having something on the calendar is important to me. It's what keeps me accountable. So I don't, people talk about it's a lot of money to do this stuff. And that's a valid point. Racing can be expensive. Certainly, Spartan, when they get my season pass money every year, it's a big hunk of cash, but it's really an investment. The way I look at it is an investment for myself, because I don't necessarily spend a lot of money doing anything else. I don't really party. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. And when I say I don't drink, I mean, I drink occasionally, but I'm not, a big drinker. But this is just where my money goes. It doesn't go to other things. It goes into this, and it keeps me active. It keeps me healthy. And it keeps me fulfilled. So, I implore everybody to find something that they enjoy, especially when people say, "I'd love to do something like that." It's like, well, then do it.
Right.
If you truly mean those words, then you can do it. If you want, talk to me. Find somebody if you feel comfortable with, but it can be done. So don't just say. And that's I don't want to say it's a pet peeve, but when a lot of times I'll post my stuff on social media and people will be like, "Oh, I wish I could do something like that." That's like, don't say that to me, because I'm going to remind you that you absolutely can if you really want to.
Right.
Now, if you don't want to, then I'm not looking to try to convert anybody that's not interested. If I'm going to go out on a run, that's not your thing. That's perfectly fine. I don't judge. But if you're like, I wish I could do that, then believe me, I'm going to remind you that you can.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you said that, because I've been a student of this for the last 4 years as I've had the podcast, really to understand, what motivates someone to make that decision to go ahead and, start their fitness journey and run and do obstacle course races and whatever that, brings them. And, some of what I read was really like around habits and just kind of around mindset. And it was really interesting because something I read was, someone's really, I don't remember exactly how they put it, but they're not willing to lose something over the benefit of gaining something, right? It's harder for someone to let go of what they have,
right,
versus realizing what they could have.
Right.
And again, it's not exactly the way it was put, but to your point, someone has to create space, right? Time, money,
Absolutely.
resources, mind share to do this type of thing. Which is a change from what they're doing today. So I don't, it's not easy to do. And, they have to kind of arrive at that point in their own time. But, what I'm hoping for the show is that we're here with these conversations to help them with that next step once they made the decision.
Right. And so what you talked about is one of the, I don't want to say excuses, but people will say they don't have time and they don't have money. But realistically, if there's something that you truly want to do, you don't have time, you make time.
Sure.
Like there, and you talk about creating habits as well. And hopefully people get to a point where this becomes part of their life, as opposed to, so when you talk about working out or fitness, if you just look at it as one thing that you do, that I say, hey, I got to get this workout, if you look at it in a negative way, it's going to be hard to sustain. But if you just are able to incorporate it into your life in a way that's manageable, then it becomes part of your life, and it's just something that you do. Like for you, I think running is it's not something that you have to do. It's what you do, not you have to do it, and it's this miserable thing. This is what I do, So for me, I train probably about 4 times a week. It's not super intense, but it's what suits me, and it's just what I do. So, and I don't sacrifice that, in the same way I wouldn't, and I know people who know me, I bring this up a lot, but it's like when you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth. It's not something that you decide, well, today I'm not brushing my teeth, or I don't want to brush my teeth, right? So I know people get tired of me using that example, but it's true. It's like you wake up, you brush there are things that you do regularly. And if you can find a way to incorporate, fitness or just well-being into something that you do regularly, it's part of what you do. It's just going to benefit you.
100%. And it's about building a habit, right? You got into the habit of brushing your teeth every day growing up. So you don't really think about it. It's almost like breathing at this point. So how do you create those same habits around fitness? And how do you create, the time, the space, the money to do
so that would be the catchphrase is, you don't have time, make time.
100%.
Simple as that.
100%. So I love that. I love how, we transition from talking about some of the obstacles and getting over those things in life to just making a change and creating the space to do fitness and run and obstacle course races and enjoy all the benefits that come along with that. Because it's not just pain and agony, which it's, some points it could be, but you get a lot of really good benefits from fitness. So love that. So let's talk about Super Smash Bros. I'm really curious about the team and how it started and kind of what you guys are doing there.
Okay, Super Smash Brothers is just something that I created. So as I said, I started in 2014 with my buddy John, and we were doing races together. Probably in 2017, 2018, we were doing most of our races together. And he kind of branched off because I think he took a different path in terms of for work, and work can be a burden on us, and it makes it harder to do some of these things when your weekends aren't free, and then when you have children that you have to take care of. So. But Super Smash Brothers, my name is Mario. Okay. So growing up, it was Super Mario was always something that I played, and then it was very popular, and people always asked me where my brother Luigi is. So it was just something that was irritating, but at some point I learned to embrace it, and especially in my older years. But Super Smash Brothers is a game that's the main character is Mario, and then there's all these other different characters in the game. So I was like, just trying to find a way to get my guys to tag along and try to feel like they're part of something. So my guy Jesse, who's part of the Super Smash Brothers team, he picked the character Link. His favorite game was Zelda. He picked Link as his character, and it just was a cool way to get people to join the team. You pick a character, you throw it on the back of your shirt, and that's your character. You get to embody that character, and that was going to be my way of creating this big team. It didn't necessarily happen, but there's probably about 10 of us that each have their own different character on the back of their shirt. I've tried to get my son has a character. I obviously am Super Mario. And, so the Super Smash Brothers team is comprised of a core group of guys that, we go work out together. You might only see me and Jesse at the races, but, you come to the workout, you probably see more of us participating. And it's just a way of, hey, we're going out training. Who wants to come with us? And, you can be part of the group, and anybody's included. So I run races, and I don't even want to say honorary Smash Bros because it's like, hey, we're running a race together. You're part of the squad. So it's that's essentially in a nutshell what the team is about and where the name comes from. It's from the video game. Clearly,
I love that. So that was my childhood as well. Kind of growing up with those games and cartoons and all of that.
Fun fact, I am absolutely terrible at Super Smash Brothers, the game. Like it's that fighting game. My kids, they've never showed mercy.
Right.
I've made the attempt, especially after creating the team. I said, I probably should get good at this game. And every time I make an effort to play Super Smash Brothers, they have no mercy. It's similar to when we used to play Street Fighter as a kid. And anyone would come into my room, they would get demolished. I had no mercy. Older brothers, uncles, no mercy. So the same thing, they absolutely destroy me. So I've never been able to get good at that game. I have yet to record a victory as a player in that game. So,
well, you've got some work to do.
Well, it all depends. So when you say you got work to do, we all have work to do, and it's what you choose to work on. That's not going to be something I prioritize. Okay. So it may be for some. I'm not a gamer, but I used to play games, but it's just not something that I've done. And I don't knock anybody, but I prioritize getting out there and trying to train with the time that I have. Because again, we do have limited time. I have a career that I have to focus on. I have kids I have to focus on, and we have to carve out that time for ourselves. It's extremely important, and you prioritize what you're going to do with that time. And as we get older, I know that sometimes we lose touch with people that we have relationships with. So there's a lot of friends that they say, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a long time." It's like, well, you can always come to join me for a run, and they're like, "Well, I don't want to run." It's like, okay, well then I probably won't see you because I'm going to go run. I'm not interested in going to the bar. And there's a happy medium too, because obviously you have good friends. You have to find ways to keep those relationships as well. But right now where I'm at is I enjoy doing activities outdoors, hiking, running, biking, whatever that is, and anybody's more than welcome to join. And it's always fun when it happens to be friends that'll come and join you for a hike. It's always a good time.
100%. And I love how we hit on each of the pillars for Inspired to Run podcast, where we talked about mindset a bit. We talked about movement, and now we're talking about motivation. And part of motivation pillar is around community. Like, how do I stay motivated to keep moving, and how do I motivate others? And a lot of that's through community. And I love how you created this team. Like, you have 10 of you that pick your character, and you get together and you inspire and motivate each other to stay fit and
and talking on motivation, it's I really enjoy when I'm going out for a run. Like I go to Sleeping Giant, right? So that's where I go to train. It's when I want to get some elevation, and that's where I go. So the trail well. It's about a mile and a half up to the tower, and there's times where I'll run up and then I'll run back down. And as you go up and down a couple of times, I kind of like when people are just like, wow, you're going back up there again. And you'll hear people say, I'm going to get to a point where I do that, or I'll be on a track or something, and I'm just doing my runs, my miles, and then maybe I'll do some hill repeats, and then you see someone who will just come over and say, I'd like to get there someday, and I always want to remind them, you can do it, and it's okay to start off slow. Like, they'll say, I'll never be able to do something like that, and sometimes you have to encourage them by saying, well, you're out here right now walking. And, you have to let them know that that's taking a step. Sometimes people think they have to do that, 3 times up and down, or they have to do that big thing. It doesn't always have to be that big thing, meet yourself where you are. If you don't walk at all, going out to the track just for a walk is beneficial for you. It's going to help improve your quality of life. So, and it's something that should be celebrated. If you're out here on the track walking with your family, and kudos to you, So, you talk about motivation. I'm motivated by, right now what I see. I come to Underdog to I get motivated. It's coming to the events whenever they hold the Deca Strongs. The community that they've built here it's motivational. I draw from that, and it doesn't stop there, because there's people who are inspired by me. There's people who are inspired by you out there right now listening. You might not think so, but sometimes your actions speak louder, and you don't always get people telling you that you inspire them. But when you put a post out there, you've inspired somebody, and you might not even know it. So just do the work, stay inspired, find your inspirations, but understand that you are that inspiration for somebody, whether you know it or not.
Love it. Love it. Mario, I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. You shared a lot of insights with us and inspiration. And I'd love to, a couple questions for you as we kind of wind down here.
Yeah.
So the first one is kind of, what's your proudest moment in your fitness journey?
In the fitness journey, that's hard to say. I would say, obviously, doing the ultra I'm proud of that. But then also, I remember thinking to myself, well, I'll never get on a podium for anything. It's never been a goal. And then this year I've been able to get on 2, which was, it's super exciting. And you would think that those are like the proudest moments, but the reality is just I would say, constantly improving, being able to look back and I record a lot of data, and I think we all should, whether you have a fitness watch or you're using Strava, I think it's important to just kind of record where you are and be able to look back. And I would say there's not one specific moment, but just as I progress, looking back and say, wow, I've been able to maintain and continually improve. And for me, I'm proud of that, of not having given up. And continuing. So that's probably the proudest moment is, I don't know. if it's a particular event, I can't really name one.
Okay. All right. No, that's cool. I love that. I love that. So last question here is, how can our listeners find you, follow your incredible journey online?
It is at Super Smash Brothers OCR, and mostly on Instagram is where I'm uploading videos. And so if you go on Instagram, you'll see that I also put together a lot of content where we'll do a race and then I'll record it and put a montage together, showcase some races. But at Super Smash Bros OCR for Instagram, I have a TikTok, but I don't really follow it. Usually it's just stuff that I put on Instagram also goes there. I don't really do Facebook, so Instagram is the main one, and then YouTube as well at Super Smash Bros OCR YouTube. And I share some content there where we're doing some racing. One of the coolest things is when you go, and it's typically a city challenge. So when we go to city challenge, oftentimes they go to Jesse and they say, Jesse, you're the guy from that video. Because a lot of times people who are, looking up a race, they might say, what's this race all about? And then they'll see one of our videos and we just go through the course and they're just like thanking us, like, I'm glad you put that video together. I wasn't sure what this was going to be about, but seeing your video, I was able to see, and Jesse likes to feel like a celebrity too. So we're actually both former artists, which is, we could leave for another day, but that was the past life, so.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'll put that information in the show notes for our listeners to find and follow you. And Mario, thanks again for coming on the show, sharing your fitness journey, sharing your life journey, and all the insights with our listeners.
Yeah, and thank you for putting the show together for us to inspire to run.